Someone sat in total darkness 45,000 years ago and drew a pig on the wall. They didn't need to. So why did they do it? The answer rewrites history. You have a phone in your pocket right now. You've probably taken a photo today. Maybe you've doodled on a napkin. Maybe you sent someone a funny drawing. You didn't think twice about it, but you should have. Because that impulse, the one that made you capture an image, make a mark, freeze a moment, that impulse shouldn't exist. Evolution doesn't care about selfies. Evolution cares about calories, survival, and reproduction. Art is a waste of energy. And yet, we do it constantly. We do it compulsively. We've been doing it for longer than we've been human. And the reason why is not what you think.
Let's go back to the pig. In 2017, archaeologists working in a cave on the Indonesian island of Sulawesi made a discovery that broke everything they thought they knew. They found a painting of a wild pig, roughly life-sized, drawn in dark red pigment. The pig is standing still, its body outlined with careful, confident strokes. It's surrounded by handprints, dozens of them. The painting is stunning. But that's not what shocked them. What shocked them was the date. The pigment was at least 45,500 years old. That made it the oldest figurative art ever discovered. Older than the famous caves of Lascaux in France. Older than Altamira in Spain. The oldest surviving image of a real thing drawn by a human hand on a cave wall in total darkness. But here's the part nobody talks about. The person who drew that pig, they had no reason to do it. They weren't hungry. They weren't recording a kill. They weren't teaching anyone how to hunt. The pig is just standing there, calm, alive. It's not a trophy. It's not a recipe. It's an image. An image that took time, effort, and risk. The cave is deep. The light would have been dim. The artist had to hold a flame in one hand and draw with the other. They had to mix pigments from ochre and clay. They had to plan the composition. And they did it anyway, for no survival reason. That's the part that doesn't make sense. Evolution doesn't do anyway. So what was going on?
The answer might be older than the pig itself. Before that pig, there were lines. Simple, deliberate lines carved into shells and rocks. The oldest known geometric markings are from a cave in South Africa. A block of ochre engraved with a crosshatch pattern dated to 73,000 years old. That's before modern humans left Africa. That's before we became the dominant species. And those lines weren't accidental. They were intentional. They were made by someone who wanted to leave a mark. But why? What does a line do for survival? Nothing. A line doesn't fill your stomach. A line doesn't keep you warm. A line doesn't scare off a predator. And yet, humans have been making lines for nearly 100,000 years, generation after generation, in caves and on bones and on pieces of stone. And here's where it gets even stranger. In 2021, archaeologists found something even stranger. In a cave in Spain, they discovered red handprints made by Neanderthals. Neanderthals, a separate human species that went extinct 40,000 years ago. The dates were confirmed. These handprints were older than the Sulawesi pig. They were older than anything Homo sapiens had ever drawn. And they were intentional. Someone pressed their hand against the rock, blew pigment over it, and left their mark. They knew exactly what they were doing. They weren't making food, they weren't making shelter, they were making a statement. And here's the part that makes this even stranger. Neanderthals didn't have language, not the way we do. They had vocalizations, gestures, but probably no symbolic grammar. And yet they left symbols, they left handprints, they left something that was meant to be seen, something that was meant to be read. So let's ask the question again. Why?
There's a theory that anthropologists have been wrestling with for decades. It's called the social glue hypothesis. The idea is that art wasn't about representing the world. It was about holding the group together. Think about this. A group of hunter-gatherers, maybe 25 people, maybe 50, lives together day after day, year after year. They have no permanent housing, no writing, no law enforcement. The only thing holding them together is shared belief, shared story, shared identity. And art in this model is a way of making those beliefs visible. The pig on the wall isn't just a pig, it's a story about the pig. It's a shared memory. It's a way of saying we are the people who know this pig. We are the people who can draw it. We are the people who understand what it means. In 2014, an anthropologist named Polly Wiesner published a study of the Juhulwansi Bushmen of the Kalahari. She spent years recording their conversations. During the day, most of their talk was practical: work, logistics, resources. But at night, around the fire, 81% of their talk was stories, myths, histories, jokes. It was art, performed and shared. And Wiesner argued that this nighttime storytelling was the engine of human culture. It's where we learn to imagine. It's where we learn to cooperate. It's where we learn to feel connected to people we'd never meet. The campfire was the original movie theater, and the pig on the wall was the original movie. But there's another layer, a darker one. In the 1990s, an evolutionary psychologist named Jeffrey Miller proposed something controversial. He argued that art is a form of sexual selection, just like a peacock's tail, which serves no survival purpose and actually makes the peacock easier to catch. Art might be a signal. A costly, difficult-to-fake signal of intelligence, creativity, and health. Drawing a pig in total darkness 45,000 years ago required skill. It required patience. It required planning. It required a brain that could hold a mental image and translate it onto a wall. And that brain, that specific brain, was an advertisement. It was saying, I can do this. My brain is powerful. My genes are worth passing on. If true, then the first artist was not painting for the group. They were painting for themselves, for their reputation, for their chances of being chosen.
And that's uncomfortable. We don't like to think of art as selfish. We want art to be pure, sacred, above biology. But the evidence points in a different direction. Art is biological. Art is a technology of the mind. It's a way of processing reality that our ancestors invented because it worked. It kept groups together. It attracted partners. It preserved knowledge. It gave meaning to suffering. Art was not a luxury. It was a survival tool. Consider this. A single cave painting, the Sulawesi pig, for example, would have taken hours to make. The pigment had to be collected, ground, mixed with water or fat. The wall had to be prepared. The light had to be managed. And the artist had to memorize the image or draw it from life. That's a huge investment of time and energy. And yet, they did it. Not once, not twice. They did it over and over again. The Sulawesi cave alone has more than 200 paintings. There are thousands of caves across the world, all filled with the same impulse: humans leaving marks on walls. It's the first global phenomenon. Before trade, before cities, before writing, before anything, there was art. And it gets stranger. Some of those paintings show things that didn't exist. Mythical creatures, half human, half animal figures. Those figures weren't based on reality. They were based on imagination, on vision, on dreams, on altered states of consciousness. In many hunter-gatherer cultures, trance states were used for healing, hunting, and spiritual contact. The imagery from those trances, the geometric patterns, the hybrid animals, the tunnels of light, appears in cave paintings all over the world. The same patterns, the same shapes, across continents, across thousands of years. Which means our ancestors were not just drawing what they saw, they were drawing what they felt, what they feared, what they hoped. They were externalizing their inner world, and that might be the real origin of art. Not representation, communication. Not of the world, but of the mind. So here we are, 45,000 years later. You're holding a glowing rectangle. You're looking at images that are constantly produced, consumed, and discarded. You're scrolling through photos, memes, illustrations. You're leaving digital marks on digital walls.
And you're doing it for the same reason that someone sat in total darkness and drew a pig. You want to be seen. You want to connect. You want to say, I was here. You want to leave a mark that outlasts you. But here's the part we don't want to admit. Most of the images you see today are disposable. They exist for a split second. They don't require sacrifice. They don't require skill. They don't require sitting in a cave with a dying flame and a piece of charcoal, risking everything to make something permanent. We've traded permanence for volume. We've traded meaning for distraction. And we've convinced ourselves that this is progress. But the pig is still there, on that cave wall, 45,000 years later, still watching, still waiting. It doesn't care about your phone. It doesn't care about your likes. It only cares that someone from the beginning of time, wanted to say something so badly that they drew it in the dark.
The question you need to ask yourself is not, why did they do it? The question is, are you doing anything that will last 45,000 years? Or are you just scrolling? Because that pig wasn't a meme. It wasn't a story. It wasn't a post. It was a prayer. A prayer that someone someday would see it and remember that they were here. They were real. They mattered. You will never draw anything that lasts 45,000 years, but you can decide right now whether the things you make are worth remembering, or whether you're just another ghost scrolling past the ghosts of everyone who came before you.